ancestors, we do declare that you will fall to my derriere. Wait, pause. It rhymed, but didn't quite land the way I was hoping. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Arcane Archive. That's right. We are here once again to provide for you. What are we doing today, Sammy?
We're doing another episode of subclass discussions.
That's right. We're doing a MetaTalks. It's a MetaTalks day. We're so happy. We know that you all love these as well, clearly, obviously, because how couldn't you? They're so amazing and fun. We did the last one perfectly. There were no mistakes. There were no issues or problems or mispronunciations or speakings whatsoever. I plead the fifth. But anywho, thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. If you like what we're doing here at the Arcane Archive, as always, please be sure to like and comment down below. Tell us, what you guys are thinking of the new classes. If you guys have played them, what you think of them. Let us talk about kind of anything, honestly. We just love any kind of discourse and interactions and stuff. It really just means the world to us for the support. And of course, if you're liking it, subscribe and share the channel. We appreciate any support and help that you can provide for us. You really just can't buy or pay enough for that kind of, advertisement. Just word of mouth. That's kind of what we primarily rely upon. So, hey, any amount you can offer us is always highly appreciated. But with that being the case, again, like we said, no more waiting. Let's get right into it today. MetaTalks, subclass discussion. Well, class discussion with subclass added on to it, I guess, is more accurate. This is the class discussion. We'll probably come back later for all of new 2024 subclasses, at least the ones that we missed or didn't talk about, to talk about those some more. But for now, we are going to be starting the first one today with, indeed, the Barbarian, as you no doubt would have seen from the title. And Sam will be talking about...
I'll be discussing Fighter and the maybe not so many changes made to it.
I mean, hey, Fighter was already kind of just the best fighter. Fighter is a fighter. What are you going to do? It can't really change a lot of too much. Although, to be fair, all martial classes did get a little bit of an upgrade with weapon masteries and stuff like that. They added that little caveat to everybody, which is nice. You know what I mean? Gives them a little bit more flavor, a little extra bang for their buck, which is always appreciated. But yes, for the first one we'll be talking about, we're going to talk about our beloved rage-induced, anger management, problematic child that we all love to play, the Barbarian. Barbarians, from what I've seen, have had a couple of changes here or there, and quite frankly, in my opinion, I'd say they've all been nothing but buffs for the most part. Not anything too crazy or insane, except for maybe the Totem Barbarian probably got rather nerfed, but we'll get to that. But in terms of just the baseline class of Barbarian, I think it's got nothing but buffs and improvements. So let's talk about them. Right off the bat, we have our little description here. Barbarians are mighty warriors who are powered by primal forces of the multiverse that manifest as rage. More than a mere emotion, and not limited to anger, mind you, this rage is an incarnation of a predator's ferocity, a storm's fury, and a sea's turmoil. Again, right off the bat, I already appreciate a little bit of the flavor change there in terms of a lot of people have, even since the original just 5th edition, that Barbarians can manifest their rage in more than just literal anger and wrath, right? Rage is almost more of kind of just an elevated or enlightened mindset, ironically, right? Despite the word rage, it's really more so of them just channeling, as it kind of depicted here, channeling their energy, their focus, their intense battle prowess towards battle and war and conflict, right? Which can technically be expressed in a numerous of ways. It's basically just, as we in the gaming community like to say, you just lock the fuck in. You know what I'm saying? You enter that flow state. And for Barbarians, it just kind of happens to look a little bit more you become super freaking resistant to all kinds of shit. You just get hardier than a motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? And you can hit even harder than a motherfucker at that point. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of lock the fuck in, and you're just like, ah, it's great. We love it. But you can now also kind of portray that not necessarily just as a mindless raving raising lunatic, but also as a, maybe you could do it almost like a drunken master kind of style, right? Where you just like you lock in, you get real quiet and just focused, and you almost get like almost like an ultra instinct Goku kind of vibe, right? Where you're kind of just like, you're just shrugging off attacks like they don't even feel shit to you. Nothing. Um, and we love that kind of thing. We love a little bit extra flavor for all of our classes. Give them a little bit more kind of depth to them. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. It's great. It's great stuff. So, starting us off at level 1, it's basically, all the same usual stuff you get from the original 5th edition Barbarian 2014, except for one extra thing. You get your weapon mastery as well, but we'll get to that. First off, you get your bread and butter of this class, as we literally just talked about. Barbarians, the most iconic aspect is their rage. This ability is the single most, almost kind of like, not capstone ability, but it is the core, like a paladin and their divine smite, like a rogue and their sneak attack, like a wizard and their magic, like the rage is the essence of the barbarian. You can imbue yourself with a primal power called Rage, a force that grants you extraordinary might and resilience. You can enter it as a bonus action if you are not wearing heavy armor. You can enter your Rage a number of times shown for your Barbarian level in the Rages column of the Barbarian features table. You regain 1 expended use when you finish a short rest, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Now, while active, your Rage follows the following rules. They did change Rage a little bit from how it functions in the 2014 edition. But in my opinion, I do think this is probably for the better overall. It just maybe requires a little bit more attention to it directly. But at the caveat of giving you a little bit more flexibility with it too, which again, I like and appreciate. So before we get into the more specifics of the new 2024, let's talk about the 2014 a little bit so you get an idea of the changes. The original Rage functioned very similarly. You could go into it as a bonus action as long as you are not wearing heavy armor. The benefits that you gain specifically are when you're in your Rage in 2014, you have advantage on strength checks and saving throws. When you make melee weapon attacks using strength, you gain a bonus to the damage roll that increases as you gain levels as a barbarian. And you also gain the most iconic aspect, which is you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Note, the text does not specify that it is to non-magical weapons only, or non-magical damage only. This includes any type of bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing, whether it's magical or non-magical. And that is a very rare aspect. Many items, abilities, features, or whatever that also provide you resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing will often have the specific caveat of whether or not it is specifically non-magical or magical. It'll usually just be non-magic. Whereas Barbarian, at level 1, gains instant resistance. Not instant, of course. You do have resources that you have to spend, but essentially can gain resistance to any type of bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. That is amazing right then and there. Another aspect to consider, though, a little bit of some of the detriments or downside of your Rage is you are not able to cast spells or concentrate on anything while you are raging. So if you were trying to think of like, I'm going to be a dual hybrid, multi-class barbarian wizard or barbarian druid thing and go into rage while having that resistance while also being able to cast spells, unfortunately, you will not. If at any point you enter your rage, you will instantly lose concentration on any spell that you might have up, as well as you're unable to cast any other spells while raging. Which again, I think is a fair trade, quite frankly, because you get so many bonuses from Rage itself. You don't also need to be able to bend the fabric of reality to your whim with that. Along with that, however, in the 2014 edition of 5th edition, your Rage lasts for a maximum of 1 minute. It ends early, however, if you are either knocked unconscious, if your turn ends and you haven't attacked a hostile creature since your last turn, or you have taken damage since then. You could also end your rage on your turn as a bonus action if you preferred. So that is essentially how the original 2014 rage worked. Like I said, they made a bit of changes. So here's the new updated 2024 version. While your rage is activated, you have the following benefits and rules. Damage resistance. You still have your resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. We love that. Your rage damage. When you make an attack using strength with either a weapon or an unarmed strike and deal damage to the target, you gain bonus to the damage that increases as you gain levels as a barbarian, as shown in the damage column of the features table. To be fair, this part right here isn't that much different, except for the fact that the old edition did specifically stipulate that it had to be weapon attacks using strength. So now, technically speaking, you can also deal kind of any strength-based attack, either weapon or unarmed strike. Now you can deal your rage damage with it too. So they just specifically, I don't think any GM would probably let you not do that, to be fair, like in the old 2014 edition, because it doesn't make any sense why you couldn't also deal your rage damage, just physically speaking as well. It's a dumb rule. It didn't make any sense. But now they did specifically rules as written stipulated as well. So now even the most finicky, persnickety, annoying rules lawyer, rules as written GM can no longer try to ruin your fun, happy days like that. Another thing too being is you also have advantage on strength checks and saving throws, still the same, as well as you cannot maintain concentration or cast spells. Both are the same. The biggest change to Rage in 2024 is the duration time now. It's a bit different. Now, with the new rules, the Rage lasts until the end of your next turn. So on a turn, you use your bonus action to activate your Rage. Unless you do one of three things to continue it, it will end early regardless at the end of your next turn after that one. It also will end early if you don heavy armor or have the incapacitated condition. So it's still a bit similar to the old one, a little bit, but still a little bit more caveats to it, which is fine. If your rage is still active on your next turn, you can extend the rage for another round by doing one of the following things. One, you make an attack roll against an enemy. And it does specifically stipulate that it has to be against an enemy. So unfortunately, you probably couldn't keep doing like the whole, I'm going to attack myself. But luckily, they accounted for that. So don't worry. Two, you force an enemy to make a saving throw. Which really interesting.
A grapple or other things.
Exactly. Like now
push attack.
With how they changed some of the rules for grappling, now it's specifically to initiate a grapple. It is now the target has to make a saving throw of either dex or strength to resist being grappled. If they are already grappled or if the grapple succeeds, the only way for them to get out of it is if they use an action to make an athletics or acrobatics check now. So that's a bit changed. So with that being the case, you could technically, once you have your multi-attack, even if you don't attack them right away, you can still attempt to grab them to make them make a saving throw, and that will still increase your rage. And finally, for the third, if you do not have any targets to attack or influence, you can still take a bonus action to extend your rage at that point without having to use another usage of it. Let's be clear about that. They changed it, and specifically, this works well, in my opinion, because each time the rage is extended, it will then last until the end of the next turn. And you can maintain your rage for a maximum of up to 10 minutes now. That is a huge, it's literally 10 times the amount as before. It does require you, again, to be a little bit more conscious of it now, to be fair. It will no longer specifically maintain even if you take damage, right? It's not about you taking damage. It's now about you kind of dealing damage and almost keeping up your momentum. Which, it takes away a little bit of the aspects of like being the Hulk, right? Where you get hit, the more you get hit, the angrier you get. So then you stay in rage. And it is more so about like you keeping up the pressure and the intensity yourself rather than just being naturally enraged. Which again, I don't think is bad because it does technically allow you to maintain your rage 10 times as long as before, which is great. It just takes, either you attacking, causing a saving throw, or just using a bonus action to extend it every turn. And to be fair, barbarians don't really have a lot of things that they use bonus actions for either, really. So you're probably going to have a lot of the time, if you don't have an enemy immediately to attack or grapple or whatever, you're probably going to have a free bonus action slot to
Well,
utilize to burn.
it's also nice because it allows what would happen before is you would get caught in a maybe you have a string of small encounters,
Yeah.
and the moment
And
the
would
battle went
burn
out, like
through your
the
rage.
moment the battle ended, even if you fought someone 5 minutes later, you were done. Like
Yeah.
the rage was gone, and, unless you had the persistent rage, the one where you're just like always
Yeah.
raging.
And
But
that's
that
at
was
like
like an
level
end.
15. Yeah, that's
That was
level
like an end
15.
tier barbarian thing. Most of the time, people didn't get to that point. Now there is like an actual chance that you could actually use one rage over two fights.
Yeah.
Um, or just like even if a fight goes super super long, you will just continue to have your rage.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. Like I honestly,
I agree. I like the change to it. Again, it gives you a little bit more versatility. You do maybe have to keep a little bit more of an eye on your rage because again, it isn't just a simple minute long thing. It's like you can have it up to 10 minutes now as long as you keep just spinning a bonus action to do it. Obviously, it doesn't require you to do anything else but spend a bonus action to just kind of keep your focus. So yeah, you don't get it anymore from just taking damage, but it is still great. You get all the bonuses to it, and it's I think that this is definitely a nice change to the rage mechanic, personally. Moving on, you do get at level 1, you still get your unarmored defense, which is the same as it ever was before. You basically, while you're not wearing any armor, your armor class equals 10 plus your dex modifier plus your con modifier. And you can still use a shield and gain this benefit. So that basically means you can add both your constitution and your dexterity to your AC, which is phenomenal. Especially for barbarians, obviously, like that just makes them the tankiest tank that ever tanked. You know what I'm saying? On top of the fact that you get the highest hit dice of any class. You guys are rocking a D12. So you are almost always guaranteed to have the highest hit points of all of your fellow party members, along with the fact that you can kind of almost double that hit point value because of your rage. Like when you activate your rage, you essentially almost double that because most enemies are still going to be doing some version of like piercing, slashing, or bludgeoning damage most of the time with their attacks. Obviously, if you face like a spellcaster who does elemental shit, that's different. But for most enemies, you're going to be facing some mix of bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing, maybe with some extra added elemental shit on top of it. But either way, moving on, you get again the newest feature for 2024. One of them anyway is weapon mastery. Your training with weapons allows you to use the mastery properties of two kinds of simple or martial melee weapons of your choice. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can practice weapon drills and change one of those weapon choices. When you reach certain barbarian levels, you gain the ability to use the mastery properties of more kinds of weapons, as shown in the weapon mastery column of the barbarian features table. Weapon mastery is essentially the new mechanic they introduced that I think we talked about a little bit before. It just gives like extra like effects to like your weapons. Like short swords get, I believe, what is it, hex now or something, where basically like you attack them and you get like advantage on your next attack if you deal damage with a short sword, or vex. Vex is what it is, I think. Vex. Um,
yeah,
for like certain long range weapons, I think you get like
there's like
you get
slow and
sapped.
topple, sap.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
basically a lot of them. It it's nice because you get like extra damage, or you can attack two people close to each other, or if you miss, you still graze the enemy.
with
You
like
can
great swords, you
push.
can like, slash through, like,
Yeah,
like
it's nice. Um, it gives a little bit of
yeah, it gives a little bit of
stuff.
extra like flavor, not just flavor, but also mechanics to the martial classes, right? Who a lot of people will always complain compared to caster classes don't have nearly the same kind of effectiveness or versatility, right? So even with this, it gives a little bit more nuance, a little bit more like effects and stuff where you're just like, instead of it just being I rolled a hit, I hit, I roll for damage. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, so you can influence and manipulate the battlefield and your opponents and your enemies a little bit more as martial classes now with this. As long again, you do have to remember to apply the effects because I was playing as a character who I sometimes, often, in fact, forgot to apply like the effects of my like sap because I was using a ranger who had a long range weapon and I kept forgetting to be like, yeah, oh, he has this advantage now, right? Because I hit him with my weapon. Okay, so it is a bit of a new mechanic that you have to keep track of. But moving on, we go to level two, and level two is basically the same as 2014. You get both your danger sense and your reckless attack. Now, I believe danger sense has changed a little bit as well. I think reckless attack is basically still the same because it's pretty simplistic. In 2014, it was you can throw aside all caution for defense, all consider caution for defense to attack with fierce desperation. When you make your first attack on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly. Doing so gives you advantage on melee weapon attack rolls using strength during this turn, but attack rolls against you have advantage until your next turn. For 2024, again, basically the same thing. You can throw aside all concern for defense and attack with da da da. When you make your first attack roll on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly. Doing so gives you advantage on attack rolls using strength until the start of your next turn, but attack rolls against you have advantage during that time. So basically, the only difference is you can do it like with non-weapon attacks, with unarmed strikes too, is the only real change, I would say. But other than that, exactly the same. The danger sentence, however, is slightly different. For 2014, for danger sense, you gain an uncanny sense of when things nearby aren't as they should be, giving you an edge when you dodge away from danger. You have an advantage on dexterity saving throws against effects that you can see, such as traps and spells. To gain this benefit, however, you cannot be blinded, deafened, or incapacitated. They changed it a little bit now. It is specifically you have advantage on dexterity saving throws unless you have the incapacitated condition. So not only do you now no longer have to see the effects coming, because that was a specific caveat back in the day where it's like the barbarian had to have actually seen the attack coming or the save coming in order to get the effect. Now you just have it, which it makes sense from like it's danger sense, right? You shouldn't have to necessarily see it. It should almost it seems like it should be a very effectually like a spider sense, right? From Spider-Man. It should be like a spider sense where it's just like Spider-Man doesn't have to see shit to know when something's happening going on, right? He just is like, oh, my spider sense is tingling, something's going on, and he dodges out of the way. That's effectively what I think they were going for with this, because it literally says danger sense. And so I do appreciate that they made a little bit of a tweak to basically just make it more like a spider sense, which is great. Moving on to level 3, you get your Barbarian subclass, as well as a brand new feature that was not anywhere before for the Barbarian, which is called your Primal Knowledge. And again, we talked about this before with all the classes for the new 2024. They really seem to try to do their best to beef up the classes and give them a little bit more access to, like, you know, more the other 3 pillars of D&D, right? Instead of it either just being specifically focused on one, they gave them a nice mix of the 3 in terms of exploration, role play, and combat. Barbarian obviously was so very combat focused. It was all about combat, basically. There was almost nothing else that the Barbarian could really do or gain from its classes or subclass features, except for mostly combat-oriented stuff. This, however, not only gives them more skills, but it does it in a really fun, hilarious way that everybody's been memeing about since the beginning. Primal Knowledge. You gain proficiency in another skill of your choice from the skill list available to barbarians at level 1. In addition, while your rage is active, this also kind of prompts you or like incentivizes you to activate your rage outside of combat, which is amazing. Never really would have, people don't really do that before. You can now channel primal power when you attempt certain tasks. Whenever you make an ability check using one of the following skills, you can instead make it as a strength-based check, even if it normally uses a different ability. These skills are acrobatics, intimidation, perception, stealth, or survival. And so when you use these abilities, your strength represents primal power coursing through you, honing your agility, bearing, and senses. So this basically just lets you use your most likely highest stat, which is your strength. It should be strength or con. but your strength should absolutely be one of your highest stats to then apply to any of these five uh ability or sorry, five skills that you can't do not apply strength to normally. That's amazing. We love that. It gives barbarians so much more versatility for skills. And again, so many of the classes just don't have anything about their skills, really. And we love the fact that they made a lot more choices to incorporate skill mechanics and more classes now. Um, Moving on to level 4, you get your normal ability score improvements at 4, 8, 12, and 16. Level 5, you get your normal extra attack as well as the same thing as before, your fast movement, which just increases your movement speed by 10 while you aren't wearing heavy armor. At level 7, you gain access to your feral instinct. This is a little bit different from 2014. Another bit of a differentiation. From level 7 for 2014, your feral instinct, your instincts are so honed that you have advantage on initiative rolls. Additionally, if you are surprised at the beginning of combat and are not incapacitated, you can act normally on your first turn, but only if you enter rage before doing anything else on that turn. Unfortunately, all of that is a little bit complex to really execute in practice because one, as me and Sam have discussed many times, a lot of GMs and tables don't run surprise rounds properly a lot of the time. Running surprise rounds properly were always very rare, at least in my experience. I don't know about you, Sam. It was often difficult for people didn't often understand what surprise rounds really meant a lot of the time. And so this particular ability, aside from just getting advantage on initiative rolls, could be hard to execute. Exactly because same thing with like, the assassin rogue kind of debacle and issue. And so it wasn't really super like applicative, you know what I mean? If that's even a word, I don't even think that's actually a word, but it was difficult to apply and execute because of the strange, ambiguous, or unsure state of surprise rounds in and of itself. Now, though, they changed that. They threw this entire secondary part completely out the window for something else. For Feral Instinct now, you just get advantage on initiative rolls. That's it. However, you do get a separate level 7 ability for 2024 that's also called Instinctive Pounce. So, as part of the bonus action you take to enter your rage, you can now move up to half your speed. So they got rid of the second part of Feral Instinct, just gave it the advantage on initiative rolls, and they just added Instinctive Pounce instead to basically be like, when you enter your rage on your turn as a bonus action, you can just now move up to half your speed. So you immediately just get basically like your speed plus another half of your speed. Like it's basically like half a dash action as a bonus action, as also part of going into your rage. Which it's not incredible, it's not huge, but I definitely feel like it's far more applicable. That's the word. Applicable was I don't even know what I said. What did I say before? Applicatory or something like that. Jeez, this is a far more applicable. Where you basically you can just now you get extra movement as part of also entering your rage, which is great. Moving on to level 9. This is now completely replacing the original 2014 level 9 ability. The original 2014 ability is called Brutal Critical. They changed that ability to be Brutal Strike in 2024. So Brutal Critical from the 2014 was beginning at 9th level. You essentially could roll one additional weapon damage die when determining the extra damage for a critical hit with a melee attack. And these increases, or this dice, the extra dice you can roll, increases to 2 at 13th level, and then finally 3 at 17th level. So basically, it was just like when you rolled a critical hit, like you rolled a 20 on the D20 die. When you attack somebody, you could basically roll an extra dice for damage, which could definitely be like pretty high damage if you rolled, if you got the crit. And it was specifically, I believe, technically speaking, from Brutal Critical, it was, well, no, because it does only specifically say for a critical hit. So maybe even if you didn't roll a 20, if you somehow got a critical for whatever reason, you would still be able to use Brutal Critical. So that is still great. It could deal hella buttloads of damage if you were either lucky or if you were able to like hit a paralyzed creature or an incapacitated creature. Like you could do just buco bonko damage if you had like a particularly awesome weapon too on top of that, right? Uh, but also for those of us who might be suffering from, maybe a little bit of rolling performance anxiety, of rolling anxiety, it was probably a little less effective and fun of a mechanic. So now they threw that out. They completely changed it. In 2024, the new ability is, again, as I said, titled Brutal Critical. Or sorry, Brutal Strike. Excuse me. Brutal Strike. If you use a reckless attack, you can now forego any advantage on one strength-based attack roll of your choice on your turn. The chosen attack roll mustn't have a disadvantage. If the chosen attack roll hits, the target will then take an extra 1d10 damage of the same type dealt by the weapon or unarmed strike, and you can use one brutal strike effect of your choice. You have the following options to choose from. So basically, you can essentially, almost similar to the rogue now with their sneak attack. When you can like basically get rid of one of your sneak attack damage dice, you can then apply an extra effect instead. This is basically saying for your reckless attack now, you can choose to not get advantage on one of the attacks, or maybe even both. Yeah, it says any advantage. No, it says on one strength-based attack roll. So you can only do this once technically per reckless attack. But once per reckless attack, you can choose to not get your advantage on the attack to instead deal an extra d10 of damage plus either using a forceful blow, which is the target is pushed 15 feet away from you, and then you can then move up to half your speed straight toward the target without provoking opportunity attacks, or hamstring blow. The target speed is reduced by 15 feet until the start of your next turn. A target can be affected by only one hamstring blow at a time, the most recent one. So they got rid of Brutal Critical, which basically, just extra damage, and instead, once again, gave not only a little bit of extra damage, but versatility and control, right? Um, they also supplemented this by giving you more options later on at level 13. You basically you get two more options, which are Staggering Blow and Sundering Blow. Staggering Blow, the target has disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes, and it cannot make opportunity attacks until the start of your next turn. That's phenomenal. We fucking love that. That's great. Sundering Blow, before the start of your next turn, the next attack roll made by another creature against the target gains a +5 bonus to the roll. An attack roll can only gain one Sundering Blow bonus. So that basically just gives any other melee attackers, some extra bonuses to their to hit. That's great. Honestly, I don't mind this change at all. What do you think, Sam?
I like it. Again, something that the martial classes, at least at the beginning, without like some of the newer subclasses they added later on in original 5e, a lot of the martial classes suffered from kind of this like it's just like hitting one button in a video game. I
They're
hit you,
super
I hit
simple and
you, I
straightforward.
hit you,
Yeah.
I hit you, I hit you. And now that can be very fun. And rolling a lot of dice and high numbers and critting and hitting and doing all that stuff is very fun. But it's also nice to be able to do something else. Um, and
Yeah.
with the Brutal Strike, improved Brutal Strike, and then another improved Brutal Strike later on, it allows you to affect the battlefield in a different way.
A little bit
And I
more
really,
control.
and it doesn't seem like much, if you're looking at it and it's like, okay, fine, you push him away, or he can't attack anyone with an opportunity attack, or he's staggered or sundered, whatever. It doesn't look like a lot, but even being able to play a barbarian, a class that is historically known for just hitting thing with big stick,
Big
um,
bonk. Yep. Just bonk.
it's nice to be able to do something and
Unga
then
bunga.
look at your DM and be like, hey, by the way, you can't do opportunity attacks until my next turn. Or looking at one of your friends at the table and be like, in my rage, I look at you and I point to a crack in their armor. Like, it's this, it allows you to have like flavor and interaction
Mhm.
with your party that I think with a group that's more heavy on like the
Maybe some role
inter-party,
play and flavor
yeah, in
aspects.
that like
Yeah.
kind of inter-party role play, I think gives you a lot of opportunities Me personally, it's why I like martial classes is because I get to just hit things and think about strategy in a different way.
Yeah, it's
Um,
super fun. It really is.
it's very reliable. This is now giving you another way to, in my opinion, be pretty damn reliable, especially later on in Barbarian. You get some pretty like you get some pretty sick just to hits if you have a magic weapon.
I
Um,
mean, yeah,
you're level
like
20 where you have like 25 strength. That's you're gonna hit most
you're gonna
things
be hitting a lot
pretty
of things
regularly.
really
And so
hard. You're gonna hit them
so
hard.
taking away having to use reckless to get advantage also means that if you're flanking, you still get something for reckless attacking. Because that was the one thing about reckless attack that
Yeah, if you
kind of made
already
it
had advantage,
yeah,
it
because
was
it doesn't
basically
we don't get double advantage. You could offset a disadvantage, like stuff like that, and that's fine. But it was one of those things that eventually it became more situational. And when flanking is introduced and you're not fighting huge creatures. So, like, you know, I think this gives you another avenue of affecting the battlefield in a good way. And Brutal Critical was often didn't come up very often. When it did, it was nice. And if you
yeah, it was a
played,
nice little,
if you played a barbarian multi-class where you
you're a
mix with
crit
like
fisher.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you mix it with like paladin or a champion fighter to like just get as many crits as humanly possible, cool. If you're doing like you're doing the same thing with like a hexblade warlock, like it was nice. It was a fun way to play the game. You were effective. This gives you, I think, something that the barbarian was lacking, and that's that versatility,
Yep.
a way to affect the people around you without having to just have a special weapon.
Yeah.
Because the thing with barbarian was like, yeah, it's
It
cool and
was
all, but like
just hit. It was
I
just
want,
me, big boy, hit big thing with
like
big stick.
I don't want a +3 longsword. I want something that gives me damage dice. Well, now I'm like, no, I kind of want that +3
That
greatsword as opposed to a
increasing my
flame tongue
chance to hit,
because now I'm
like,
hitting all the time and I can still do bonus damage.
yeah, and I
Um,
can affect people in fun little ways. I can I can stagger them, I can sunder them, I can blow
yeah.
them back.
So
Like,
I think it changes kind of what you might go for as well and how you play barbarian. Um,
mhm.
and so I think that'll and that's once we look at subclasses that might also come into it as well
I
because I
mean,
believe one of these subclasses is very much a control oriented team support barbarian
indeed.
similar to Path of
I
the
mean,
Ancestral
I was gonna
Guardian.
Path of the Ancients, yeah, and the 2014 was very much supposed to be that.
Yeah, Ancestral
Um,
Guardian was great though.
I loved it. I loved Ancestral Guardian so much. But I mean, I will say too, another thing to consider as well with, the new weapon mastery abilities. That just further increases that, right? You do this thing here with your brutal strike, you also technically still apply the same effects of your weapon
Like you're
mastery
kind
too.
of a discount what's the word in fighter? Uh
Battlemaster?
Battlemaster.
Yeah.
Which
Like you're
imagine taking
like
Battlemaster Fighter and
and
Barbarian.
yeah, and then this, and like if like you get a little bit of your superiority die, but then you also get your weapon
Or taking just fight even
mastery.
like Battlemaster the
Like,
Fighting Initiate one where you like get a couple
I
maneuvers.
was gonna say, I think technically you can, yeah, you can just do that now. Like if you get like a feat, if you take a feat or you just get feats. One of the things I love about my current group I'm with is every time we get to level up an ability score, we also just get a free feat
Oh,
on
nice.
top of that. I love that mechanic so much. I'm absolutely going to incorporate that into my own games too because that's just really fun to me. I don't see why you shouldn't get like increases to your attributes as well as a free feat. I don't like. I will say now though, of course, maybe I think that that might be more specifically targeted towards 2014 because the new 2024 almost every feat now also technically still gives you at least a +1 to some kind of attribute, either of your choice or specifically whatever the ability is tied to, which I appreciated so much because that was one of the biggest things about 2014 was, oh, if you had to choose between a feat and an ability score improvement, it's like, well, that kind of sucks. You like, you might get like a cool little ability, but you'd also lose out on, like, why wouldn't you also just get naturally stronger as you're conditioning and you're working out and you're learning more? Again, you're becoming literally more experienced. Like you should just get your attributes and stats should be able to just increase. But whatever. Either way, I like that personal homebrew mechanic that we're doing. But with this especially, yeah, like you get a ability score improvement and you take a feat, like Sam said, maybe you can get fighter initiative and get some superiority dice, and it just makes you even more of kind of a menace on the battlefield where you are literally crippling your enemies while beating the shit out of them. Uh, but let's continue on here. We still have a few more. After level 9, you get your Relentless Rage at level 11. And I believe this basically functions the exact same way as it does in 2014. It's one of the most broken, busted abilities of the Barbarian. Uh, Relentless Rage. Your rage can keep you fighting despite grievous wounds. If you drop to 0 hit points while your rage is active and don't die outright, you can make a DC 10 con save. If you succeed, your hit points instead change to a number equal to twice your Barbarian level. Each time you use this feature after the first, the DC increases by 5. When you finish a short or long rest, the DC resets to 10. Now, there's one change that they made to this ability. This ability was already super busted and broken, but there's one change they made compared to the 2014, and that is the amount of hit points you get back if you succeed on the saving throw. It used to be in 2014, you would just basically instead of your hit points dropping to 0, you would just go to 1. If you made the Constitution saving throw, you would just have 1 hit point at that point. And I believe for Relentless Rage, no, it's still the same thing for a short or long rest when it resets. So yeah, the only change is just your hit points. Now, at this level, if you make the save, your hit points are instead going to be 22 points. You automatically get 22 hit points back, which gives you a little bit more maybe survivability or resistance. Because again, the only issue with it being like, 1 hit point back in the day was essentially like you were immediately going to have to make that saving throw again.
Yeah.
If they were somehow, and this is the biggest thing about Relentless Rage, right? I like this change to it, but I'll also say Relentless Rage, ironically, despite being the most broken and busted mechanic, it's also weirdly one of the most useless, because Barbarians are so fucking hard to get down to 0 to
Well, the
begin
reality is though,
with.
the reality is that makes for some fucking heroic last stands.
It does, if you are able to get them down to that, to be like, but that's the thing, right? Barbarians with their rage are so hard to even drop that low unless you are consistently hitting them with like elemental nukes, right? Um, that with this, like you people were hard pressed to even really ever use Relentless Rage, even though it's super awesome. I love this ability. It's super cool. Like Sam said, it has the capacity to be some of the most badass, crazy, like last stand type of moments where you're just like you're pushing through the pain, and you're getting that kind of resistance and that con save. You're just like, no, one last strike. Um, but it's just hilarious to me because you would barely ever really see that, because Barbarians, again, you have the highest hit die. You're gonna have high con because it also directly affects both your health as well as your AC. Like, you are the tank, so it's always gonna be such a fucking feat in and of itself. And you have resistance to everything. You have your rage to everything. So you not everything, but you know what I mean. It'll be such a feat to even get them down to 1. And then if they're gonna make that save, at least the first initial one, because they're gonna have fucking high con at this point, and you're just like, wait, I got you down. I hit you with like
It's like,
7
no.
fireballs. How are you still up? And it only gets worse at later levels. So let's go ahead. Let's get there. We already talked about the improved brutal critical at 13. So we'll skip over that to the next one that is almost basically an additional little layer on top of Relentless Rage, and that is at level 15. Same thing as the original 2014 rules, I believe. It is called Persistent Rage. Now, let's see real quick just to be sure. For the 2014 rules, Persistent Rage was beginning at 15th level. Your rage is so fierce that it only ends early if you fall unconscious or if you choose to end it. So that basically is Relentless Rage. Or sorry, Persistent Rage. You just don't drop rage. I think they did change it now because rage can go a little bit longer and stuff anyway, so I think they did change it. So for level 15, for 2024 rules, persistent rage. When you roll initiative, you can expend all uses of rage. After you regain uses of rage in this you can. Oh, sorry. You can regain all expended uses of rage. Excuse me. After you regain uses of rage in this way, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. In addition, your rage is so fierce that it now lasts for 10 minutes without you needing to do anything to extend it from round to round. Your rage ends early if you have the unconscious condition not just the incapacitated condition or don heavy armor. So yeah, basically now the rage still only lasts for 10 minutes. It's not going to last forever anymore with persistent rage, but you do also have the ability to get back all your rages once per long rest when you roll initiative, and also now it just lasts for the full 10 minutes without you needing to do anything to extend it. And it only ends early if you're unconscious, not just incapacitated, or you don heavy armor. So still a bonus, you know what I mean? Still an improvement. So it still gives you the capacity. I think this one, admittedly, I feel like is a little lackluster for a level 15 ability. But I'm not mad at it. I don't think it's terrible.
There's only so much you can do.
Yeah, and and again, we also said before, a lot of the new 2024 classes, they really did beef them up like front runner, right? They front ended a lot of these classes now, which we love. We appreciate the fact you get a lot more of the cooler abilities earlier on than having to wait, because nobody ever gets to those later levels most of the time anyway. So that's great. Moving on, we already talked about a level 17 improved brutal strike, which is basically your extra damage dice from 1d10 go to 2d10. And in addition now, however, you can use 2 different brutal strike effects whenever you use it. So now you don't just get 1, you can get 2. You can both, stagger and sunder, or hamstring and forceful blow these motherfuckers. That's great. We love that. You get your epic boon at 19th level like everybody else. And then finally, your capstone ability, which again, I'm so happy that they kept this. It is the same as the 2014 edition, and it is that both you get Primal Champion is what the ability is called, and it essentially allows you to embody your primal power. Your strength and con score increases by 4. However, they increased the capstone max now to a maximum of 25, which I don't really understand because there's not really many things that can increase your attributes beyond 20, except for things like this. And I don't know many things that would increase it by just 1 to like 21. And if you got this, then it would be up to 25. Either way, it's still one of the most amazing capstone abilities in the game, which is you're now literally pushing beyond the limits of like a mortal and kind of getting even further to demigod territory kind of at this place. Like, 24 strength and con. That would be redonkabonkers. You know what I'm saying? We love that. But there you have it. That in essence is the totality of the base class of Barbarian for D&D 5.5 2024 rules. Let's talk a little bit about the subclass now. And I want to talk about, obviously, everybody's favorite Barbarian. I can't even deny it. It's mine too. I loved it back in 2014. They changed the original one, which is called Barbarian Path of the Totem Warrior. It is now called Barbarian Path of the Wild Heart. They essentially changed Totem Warrior to now be called Wild Heart. And they did make some pretty specific changes. Let's talk about the Totem Warrior real quick. Totem Warrior was by far one of, like, next to like the Moon Druid from 2014. It was also one of the most broken, busted, stupid subclasses in the entire fucking game. You were just one of the most powerful ones because the first ability that you get at level 3, you're starting subclass ability. You could choose ability known as your Totem Spirit. When you adopt this path, you choose a Totem Spirit and gain its feature. You basically could choose between one of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, like animal or beast spirits as your totem. but there was literally only one you should ever choose. There was no reason to choose any of the other ones. The first one you should choose was always bear totem. Because when you have the bear totem at level 3, while raging, you have resistance to all damage except psychic. Just take a moment, breathe that in. You heard me. There's no caveat, there's no specific. All damage. So it wasn't just bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing that you are resistant to anymore. It also includes all elemental type of damage, except for psychic. But then you could also technically fix that little problem, that little chink, the little issue, little wrinkle, by just getting an item that granted you psychic resistance. Which at that point you would literally have resistance to every type of damage in the game, unless it was specifically said it couldn't be resisted for whatever reason. That alone, at level 3, as a barbarian who has the highest hit die, will have astronomical constitution. That effectively made you immortal, essentially. It was, again, remember what I said before? A barbarian with like 300 hit points at like level 20, you basically double that with the bear totem to being like 600 hit points, because all damage would just be halved. So you'd only be doing like, you basically doubled the hit points. Like that is insane bonkers. It just is. You also get other abilities too as you leveled up, gaining multiple different types of abilities and things that were really cool. Don't get me wrong. I love I love the Totem Warrior, because you just get, again, it was one of the most versatile barbarians, because you get a lot of just magical dope shit. You also gain like types of spells and stuff like Beast Sense, Speak with Animals, what was it, Commune with Nature and stuff like that, like just as like your natural ability, because you were so in tune with nature. I loved it for that reason, but obviously it was also just one of the most powerful in the game. But moving over to Path of the Wild Heart for 2024, they made some changes, some tweaks that I think people were kind of not super happy about, but I don't think it's horrible. Let's talk about them. Right off the bat, at level 3, you gain Animal Speaker, which is basically the same thing as your Spirit Seeker, which just gives you access to both Beast Sense and Speak with Animals as ritual spells only. So that's the same thing. But your Rage of the Wilds, I believe, is slightly different from your Totem Spirit. Whereas now you can choose only 3 options instead of 5, and they are Bear, Eagle, or Wolf. Your Bear Spirit, now, while your Rage is active, you have resistance to every type of damage except for Force, Necrotic, Psychic, and Radiant. So now you're not resistant to everything except for Psychic. You do still have 4, albeit rare, they are still very rare elements, but they are still, except for Necrotic. Necrotic can be pretty common, actually, for a lot of enemies and undead. But Psychic, Radiant, and Force can still be pretty rare for like enemies to actually do. So at the very least, you weren't, fucking immortal.
Unless you're fighting
An Amethyst Dragon.
Some sort of illithid cleric. Because actually, I think an illithid cleric with a backup that's a warlock would be the perfect way to kill a bear totem,
a bear or a bear spirit,
a bear spirit, wild heart, because they do Force, Necrotic, Psychic, and Radiant. But they also have added some more spells that do psychic
and Force damage. Again, obviously, if you're like if you're a paladin, you can still contend with a wild heart barbarian now, because you do more radiant damage. I will talk about a little bit of the others too, because I think they're a little bit more viable. With your Eagle Spirit, when you activate your Rage, you can take the disengage or dash actions as part of that bonus action. While your Rage is active, you can just take a bonus action to take both of those actions, which is pretty awesome. Disengage and dash. Those are pretty great as a bonus action. You also get access to the Wolf Spirit, if you choose. And again, what's cool is you could technically cycle between all of these now. Back in the day with the with the Totem Warrior, you only ever got one choice per your level up. Like you couldn't use all of the different totem spirits. You could only choose one spirit, but that's why, again, you'd always just choose Bear. There is never any reason to use any of the other ones. You just choose bear because you only get to choose one of these choices for that level. And so yeah, you just choose bear. At least for the first one. The first third level one you get to choose, you just choose bear. But now, anytime you activate your rage, you can choose one of these spirits to embody with that rage, which is bear, eagle, or wolf. With wolf, while your rage is active, your allies have advantage on attack rolls against any enemy of yours within 5 feet of you. So you just give them pack tactics. You know what I mean? So it gives you a little bit more versatility. Again, you don't have to be so bogged down with just like one trick pony and one path forward. Moving on to level 6, you get Aspect of the Wilds. Which again, compared to 2014, like I said, every subclass level up, you'd also, same thing, you get Aspect of the Beast for 2014. I think it is just, yeah, way less options at this point. They're just different. Level 6 for 2024, you have choice between Owl, Panther, or Salmon. Now, these ones are more like long-term permanent, whereas instead of it being every time you activate your rage, it's now whenever you finish a long rest, you just get one of these 3 options. So but they're not tied to your rage specifically. You just get these abilities, which is nice. So for Owl, you have dark vision with a range of 60 feet, but if you already have dark vision, its range increases by 60 feet. So if you already have dark vision, you got 120 feet right there, which ain't nothing to sneeze at, let me tell you. You get Panther. You have a climb speed equal to your speed now, which that's not really that great, to be honest. Like, same thing for like Salmon. You have a swim speed equal to your speed. That can be way more helpful depending on your environment. Again, it's very like the other two, to be fair, are much more situational. But what's great is that you can change these choices every long rest. So if you're planning on climbing a mountain, or if you're planning on taking like, you know, a ship, a sea voyage somewhere, you do have these options now to switch here to give yourself, again, a bit more flexibility. As compared to the 2014, where you kind of just got another, you know, permanent bonus. But a lot of it was kind of just like meh. Most of them were kind of just meh. Don't really have to worry too much about it, honestly. Moving on to level 10, you get Nature Speaker, which you can cast the Commune with Nature spell, but only as a ritual. Again, basically the same thing as before, Spirit Walker. Commune with Nature is an amazing spell. It's awesome. I'm glad they kept it. It's the exact same thing as before. No reason to change that. And finally, for 14, level 14, your capstone subclass ability, Power of the Wilds. Whenever you activate your rage, you gain one of the following choices. Falcon. While your rage is active, you have a fly speed equal to your speed if you aren't wearing any armor. This is great. A little bit different from the 2014 edition because, again, with the original one that's basically akin to this, it was Eagle in the 2014 one, and it was specifically while raging, you have a flying speed equal to your current walking speed. However, this benefit works only in short bursts, and you fall if you end your turn in the air and nothing else is holding you aloft. So I would picture it back in 2014. It was almost like having a Hulk jump, right? You could jump like the Hulk or like old school Superman, where you would jump so high, so far that it looks like you're flying, but you're actually not floating. You're just launching yourself, essentially. But now with 2024, you can just fly now while you're raging at level 14. You can just fly now, which is great. I like that. Once again, one of the biggest issues with Barbarians is the fact that they are melee attackers. Like they are melee fighters. They don't have a lot of long range stuff that they use because bows are more dex. Obviously, you should probably have a little bit of dex that still attributes to your dexterity saving throws from your danger sense as well as your AC. But they weren't necessarily the biggest. It's always a strength and con with the 2 stats for barbs. Dex would be like the 3rd one at that point. So, you know, having the ability to fly to your opponent for your melee attacks, that is awesome. Next one we're going to talk about is Lion. While your rage is active, any of your enemies within 5 feet of you have disadvantage on attack rolls against targets other than you or another barbarian who has this option. So again, cool thing is you can choose between any of these three options whenever you activate your rage, just like your first one. And you also still get your other ones too. So you can technically choose between these three as well as the other three. So you'd have two of these effects active at once, right? You'd have either bear, eagle, and wolf in effect, along with falcon, lion, or ram in effect, which is great. The last one being, as I just said, ram. While your rage is active, you can cause a large or smaller creature to have the prone condition when you hit it with a melee weapon attack. Again, I'm going to be honest with you. There's not really a lot of reason to take anything but falcon here, to be fair. Like, just having that fly speed would just be awesome. It would just be great, especially at this late level. You're level 14. You're going to be fighting a lot of shit that can probably fly or float just normally. It has 360 degree of movement. So you would want the same as a barbarian. But that, in essence, is the totality of what I had to talk about for the barbarian today. Sammy, what would you give the new 2024 Barbarian / Wild Heart Barbarian as compared to its 2014 counterpart, the Totem Warrior Barbarian?
I mean, look, I'm actually very happy with it. I'm a bit, again, it's going to be suffering from the fact that they haven't redone the other paths or the old stuff from the old books. I think the new Barbarian's good. Obviously, they took a big hit in the bear spirit bear whatever
I
thing
wouldn't say even a big one. They took
a
hit.
Can I be honest? I prefer it that way because
yeah, they're not just so overwhelmingly like invincible.
It makes the other two things that you can pick. I do love that you can pick now between the level 3 and the level 14. Every time you rage, you can change it up.
Yep.
It makes you a lot more kind of back and forth.
Again, versatility is literally the word for the new barbarian, I would say. They really just laser focus with versatility for the barbarian. Which yeah, I'm totally for too.
I love it. I think it's just as good, if not better, than it was before.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. It's not, again, I would say, obviously, mechanically speaking, no, it's not as good. But in terms of fun factor and level, way, way more than the old Barbarian. Like, it beats the old Barbarian in terms of actually being far more interesting and fun to play, as opposed to being just, and I guess it depends on I should say, if that's the case, it is dependent on your personal opinion or preference of fun, right? If you just like fun just being an unstoppable juggernaut bulwark that's invincible and vulnerable for the most part, I see the fun and the coolness and badassery of that 100%. Again, I played it. It was great. It really was. I've also had other friends who've played it who were kind of assholes because of it a little bit too. It got to their head, obviously the arrogance because you're kind of invincible, except for, magic can still fuck with you. Like, again, if you get banished to the astral plane, your resistances aren't going to do much to you there. You're just going to suffocate and die. Or even to like the plane of water, the elemental plane of water, like, whatever. Either way, like, this, though, I like that it's not so just over the top, crazy, and invincible, broken, busted. It's still super freaking powerful. Don't get me wrong. Just because you have four elements, four very rare elements. They're less rare now than they were before, of course, but still pretty damn rare, that you are essentially everything else you are resistant to. You're resistant to fire, lightning, poison, thunder, freaking cold, like, all of the most common elements you are still resistant to. So that's going to take you a long way, along with the fact that you then get access to everything else if you choose it. Your eagle ability to dash and disengage just gives you further movement. If you need to like chase down a motherfucker, you can move faster than a rogue now at this level, because they don't even have or even at higher levels, because you get increases to your normal movement speed on top of that. So you can then dash and bonus or disengage and dash as part of a bonus action, and then action dash. you'd be faster than a rogue at that point. You would be up there with a freaking you'd be up there with a freaking monk too at that point. That's crazy. A barbarian as fast as a monk and a rogue? That's crazy. Point being is overall, I would also say like what would be your number rating or even just your rating, Sam? I'd say that the barbarian, in my opinion, would absolutely be A class at this point. I would give it a solid A.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that.
I mean, just with everything, like again, I haven't checked out the other subclasses yet because we'll probably do that in a different video. But and for talking about just base barbarian with Path of the Wild Heart, 100% solid A, I would say. Um, which we love to see it. Love to see it. But that's about all that I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining us. Sammy, I do believe it's your turn now, my friend, to talk about everyone's favorite simplistic class here.
I can say the same thing about yours.
Indeed.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna be talking about the fighter,
We love fighters here. We love fighters
which
here.
which is great. I love the fighter. It's great. I don't think they changed a whole lot, if I'm being honest, just looking at it.
Fair.
But there's nothing wrong with that. At the main thing that you get, obviously, weapon mastery. Um, it looks like they didn't change second wind much. Um, they did nerf action surge.
How
You
so?
can't use the magic action anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
hang on a
So
minute. Action surge. Huh. So you can't cast spells anymore. All right. Interesting.
yeah, it's interesting. I
Because they
it
also get weapon
kills.
mastery at level one.
Yeah.
Let's see, is bonus action. You get tactical mind now. That's something new.
Yes. So that is the new thing at level 2. Which mm, like okay. You have a mind for tactics on and off the battlefield. When you fail an ability check, you can expend the use of your second wind to push yourself towards success. Rather than regaining hit points, you roll a d10 and add the number rolled to the ability check, potentially turning it into a success. If said check still fails, the use of second wind isn't expended. So it's kind
Okay.
of so it's kind of like a guidance or a bardic inspiration, but better
Yeah, at least
for
at this level for certain. I mean, it's also, how many do you get again? Let's see.
2.
So you get two of your, yeah, so you only have 2 second when to
But this
start.
is
So
only for ability checks, but it allows fighters to make ability checks.
I mean, again, that's what I'm saying. They're definitely giving more classes like more direct connection to their skills and ability checks, which I appreciate.
Um,
Um,
the other thing I can say, I'm pretty sure everything else is the same in
I
terms of ability score
think
improvements,
tactical
extra.
shift is another one.
Tactical shift is the next new one, which is a level 5, which originally you would only get your first extra attack. Now you get an extra attack, and whenever you activate your second wind with a bonus action, you can move up to half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks.
Simple, but again, still effective. You have some control. You have more control over the field a bit here. Again, we like that. They did that with the Barbarian too, where it's like you activate your rage, you also get, your feral pounce to kind of move. Just giving a little bit more bang for your buck for some of your more simple abilities. I ain't mad at it. I ain't mad at it. Think the next one is also a brand new one as well.
Yes. Um, which would be Tactical Master. When you attack with a weapon whose mastery property you can use, you can replace that property with the push, sap, or slow property.
Push is specifically if you hit a creature with the weapon, you can push up to 10 feet straight away from you if it is large or smaller. Sap, as we've said before, I believe, which is if you hit a creature with this weapon, the creature has disadvantage on its next attack roll before the start of your next turn. As well as slow is it reduces a target's speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. If it's hit more than once by weapons that have this property, the speed isn't reduced by 10 feet. It doesn't exceed 10 feet. So basically, you just get to apply weapon mastery like debuffs to your opponents now. Like you can basically just replace that property with these three instead of whatever is currently on it, which so you effectively might even have four depending on what weapon you're using.
Which is nice. And I like that because
It gives them again much more Battle Master vibes. Like it seems like they've just taken the elements of Battle Master and just applied it like by default passively to a lot of more martial classes, which is really cool.
well,
Uh,
it allows you to basically pick up any weapon and use it in a very specific way, which is nice because that's kind of the fighter thing to do. I believe Indomitable is the same thing.
Indomitable.
Indomitable. Um,
Fail so you can reroll it with a bonus. Let's see.
oh no, it's not.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not
it's
this.
a little bit different. It's a little bit different. Not incredibly different, but a little bit.
So if you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it with a bonus equal to your fighter level.
Yeah,
That
as opposed to before, the original 2014 edition was you could reroll a saving throw that you fail. If you do so, you must use the new roll, and you can't use this feature again until you finish a long rest. The amount of times you can use it would increase to 2 at 13th level, and then again to 3 times at 17th level.
with this new one, am I getting this right? If you're a level 20 fighter, you get a plus 20 to your roll.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, you would.
I like that.
Yeah, no. So they basically gave it again a little bit more bang for your buck, right? It's not just like so. Say for instance, if a fighter failed like a charisma save, because there's almost no reason that a fighter will ever get proficiency with a charisma save or have maybe super high charisma unless you're a very specific type of fighter. You're probably not gonna make that save, right? You're kind of just even if you use Indomitable, you're basically just getting advantage on the save and leaving it up to chance. With this new Indomitable they're far less like fuck leaving it up to chance. You're gonna probably pass this saving throw the stronger you get. They're literally like if you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it with a bonus on top of your whatever bonus you already have. So technically speaking, Sam, if you have like let's say a strength save, right, and you have strength proficiency, your strength is a 20, your save is what
You
at
don't
level.
add it to your.
You don't add what?
I don't know if you add it to the your normal saving throw.
I'm pretty sure if you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it. I don't see why you wouldn't. It
I don't
says you
know.
can re-roll the saving throw with a bonus equal to your fighter level.
The wording is a bit strange.
Technically speaking, rules as written, how it's worded, you roll the save with a bonus equal to your fighter level. So I mean, if your saving throw is your strength saving throw, and at level 20, it would be because what's saving throw? It's 10 plus your proficiency and your attribute, right? So it would be your save would already be a 21 at level 20, I think, right? Because is it 10 or is it 8 plus your proficiency and attribute? Um, I'm
I feel like
blinking.
you could make an argument either way that this would be a different bonus than your normal.
Maybe I don't see how because you're making a saving. It doesn't say just say roll a d20 and then add a bonus equal to your fighter level. It says if you fail a saving throw, you re-roll that saving throw, which means if it's a strength save, you roll a strength saving throw, and then you add your bonus on top of it. Let's see here. D&D 5e. Saving throw calculator. Come on now, bro. Why are you taking so long here? Flip. No, excuse me. It's not 10. It would just be at level 20, your saving throw would just be a plus 11. Excuse me. So yeah. At level 20, your saving throw would be a plus 11. So then if it would be plus 11 plus your 20, yeah, it would be Jesus Christ. So that would be without any other bonuses to your saving throws. That would just be a 31 than you'd have if that was the case. It would be a D20 plus 31 at level 20.
Yeah.
At least again, if we're going by rules as written, what it looks like, what it's saying there at level 20, that's what we're looking at here. Strength save plus D20 plus 31, essentially, is what we're looking at there.
Yeah. I
Uh,
don't.
yeah, that's kind of nutter butters. I'm not gonna lie to you. Again, if we're looking at that right, but even to Sam's point too, if it doesn't technically add your modifier already present, which again, I can't see how it wouldn't because it doesn't say it replaces your strength, your modifier. It just says you re-roll the save with a bonus of your of equal to your fighter level. So, but either way, if we look at again saving throws, yeah, that would still technically be a plus 20 to the roll minimum at that point. At your highest level, level 20, you would have a minimum of a plus 20 to any of your saving throws at that point. Penalty, advantage each. Make a roll D20 and add the appropriate. For example. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's unless you're proficient. Yeah, so it's not. I was thinking of fucking your spell save or AC. So you don't have to listen. So it's just your ability score modifier and your proficiency bonus if you're proficient. So again, if you're proficient at that level, without any other bonuses to your saving throws, a for like a strength or deck save, I believe it would be a plus 11 at level 20 if you have a max of 20 in the attribute for a fighter. So yeah, it's either going to be 31 or it's going to be 20. Either way, uh, it's almost impossible for you to fail. I think almost just about any saving throw unless you just roll like a one, and it's you're fighting like an ancient red dragon, and you roll a one or something. Like it's almost impossible to fail at that point. Um, would you like to continue on, my friend?
Yeah. The only other big changes, obviously, what's it called? Obviously, you get the 2 extra attacks, 3 extra attacks. But at level 13, you also get studied attacks. You study your opponents and learn from each attack you make. If you make an attack roll against a creature and miss, you have advantage on the next attack roll against that creature before the end of your turn.
So at that level, you have two more attacks, basically. If you missed one. Or well, if you missed the first one, you'd have two more attacks to take to attack him at advantage. Let's see. Although technically speaking, it does say on you have advantage on your next attack roll. So technically it would only be one of them. So even if you hit the first one, you miss the second one, you have advantage on the last one or whatever. So you'd really only kind of no, it says next turn. So even if you miss the last attack, you have advantage on your next attack before the end of your next turn. So either way, you would seemingly always get that advantage if you ever miss, which is pretty awesome. Unless you obviously just,
Yeah.
yeah, like that's, and if you miss even with the advantage, you would then still have the advantage on the next attack. So if you just keep missing, you'll still have advantage, which that's okay. Okay. I'm kind of with that. I'm kind of with that. I see what they're doing there. Obviously, you get Epic Boon at level 19, and obviously the 20th level capstone is 4. You get 4 attacks, which, to be fair, coupled with your, your action surge, at which at this point you technically would get 3 action surges. Although I don't think you can you use your action surge multiple times in a turn? I think not, just once. Yeah, but only once on a turn. Yeah. So you can use it once on a turn. So you could technically, without, any use of your bonus action in any way or anything else, you could have like, a total of 8 attacks in one turn without any other, bonuses or whatever else added to that with your action surge, which is pretty insane, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, it's I, I like where this is going. The fact that you can just like attack, miss, get advantage, fucking you can make your saving throws like a 30. Like there's a lot of very interesting, I don't know. I like what they're doing.
I mean, they definitely beefed it up. Like I don't see anything here that's a nerf in any way, shape, or form. They just gave it like they didn't change a lot. You're right. There's a couple of things here or there that are slightly different, but everything seems like a buff to what's just kind of already pre-existing there. And they gave him like a little extra bang here or there to kind of maybe flavor him up slightly or give some extra, whatever. But like fighters, what are you gonna do? Fighter's a fighter. You know what I mean? Fighter is still one of the most effective classes for what it does, which is fight. Uh, yeah. Anything else you want to talk about with the main class of fighter, which is the baseline class fighter?
Well, I really like the baseline fighter anyway. Even from back then, obviously it was very simple. This I think gives you some other options that I enjoy. The nerfing of action surge I think is a good thing. Um, so for me, I think it's fantastic. Obviously they couldn't give it too much because it is a fighty guy. Always has been, always will be. So I think in all honesty, I think they did a good thing. Um,
I mean, honestly, like, well, I would say I like it. Like again, nothing about this I dislike at all. I do appreciate like they're applying elements of the Battle Master to the baseline now. I would be interested to see kind of what the Battle Master offers now too. If they made any changes, if it's kind of just the same, and you just get like the extra superiority die. But it's like because it's like again, if you already have the ability like with a tactical master, or even depending on what weapon you're using, to kind of have some of that already, I guess it means you can just add on additional effects too. Like you could really just debilitate somebody. Or if they gave it a little bit of a different twist. Um, because yeah, I mean he just seems like his survivability and his a bit of his versatility was tweaked here or there. But so far, yeah, I'm not mad at this at all. What subclass did you want to tell us about today, buddy?
I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty sure they're all because it looks like Psy Warrior's the same.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure Battle Master is also almost entirely the same. Um, uh, the only thing with Battle Master that I can see is that you get an extra skill proficiency. Um, the You know that enemy, instead of it being a useless ability that you have to spend at least 1 minute, you just do it as a bonus action. Um,
Let's see. Student of War. Improved combat superiority, relentless.
Relentless has been changed.
Yeah, relentless is
So
switched up.
instead of when you use a maneuver once per turn, you can roll a d8 and use the number rolled instead of expending a superiority die, which is actually for some of them pretty decent.
Yeah, relentless in the old one was just if you roll initiative, you have no superiority dice, you just get one back, which was terrible. It was fucking terrible. Instead, now you don't even have to use a superiority die. Like your superiority die will be a higher, it's a D10 by this point.
But
But
still,
instead, you could just choose to like go, 2 minus the maximum and roll a D8, but you can just do that as much as you want. Well, once per turn.
yeah, I'm pretty sure Eldritch Knight and Champion are also the same.
Well, if that's the case, which one do you want to talk about the most? Which one are you like, do you love the most out of these? And we'll see if there's any real differences.
Um,
I mean, I know you have a particular love for the Psy Warrior.
it's exactly the same.
Ah,
So
well, I
we
mean,
can I can look at
wouldn't
I'm
hurt
gonna
maybe
look
to
at
give a
Champion.
refresher. Yeah, all right,
I'm
there
gonna
you
look at
go.
no 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 I'm looking at Champion.
Let's see the worst one ever. We're gonna see
I don't think it's the worst one anymore.
if they
So
buffed it. Let's see it. Let's see it.
so Champion, maybe it's the same.
Let's find out.
I don't think it
Let's
is.
see.
So originally you got improved critical at third level. Now you get improved critical, still the same thing. But you also get remarkable athlete at third level. You have advantage on initiative rolls and athletics checks. And after you score a crit, you can move half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Also, improved critical did change. You can also do it with weapons and unarmed strikes. They made that
That's very
change, I think,
true.
probably forever. So that at least there's that too. Um,
Remarkable athlete is different.
yeah,
What it
remarkable
used to
athlete is different
be,
because
it
it used
used
to
to
be
be
at level
seventh level,
7. Yeah.
and you can add half your proficiency bonus, round up to any strength, dexterity, or constitution check that doesn't already use your proficiency bonus. In addition, when you make a running long jump, distance you can cover increases by a number of feet equal to your strength mod. So that was the old one. It was inevitably useless.
For the
The
most
new
part.
one, the new one is much better. Advantage on initiative and athletics checks, and getting extra movement when you crit.
Yup.
Instead, you get a additional fighting style at level 7 instead of level 10. Which now they're the fighting style feats, so they're slightly different.
Yeah, it's like, well, we'll take that though. Like, and so it's like they basically kind of just moved, like shuffled shit down a little bit, but I think also gave, um, I think the newest one right after that, which is nice. Huh,
Yeah, I I do like heroic warrior.
huh.
Um, the thrill of battle drives you toward victory. During combat, you can give yourself heroic inspiration whenever you start your turn without it.
I like the fact that they made heroic inspiration like an actual mechanic in the game now. Like it's an actual officially recognized game mechanic. Uh, which
This allows
is
you to just have inspiration every turn.
literally at level 10, you're just like, I just have it. Like if you don't have heroic inspiration, you can just literally be at the start of your turn. You're like, I'm heroically inspired. Or, I mean, I don't. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Well, I don't know because I'm wondering, could you technically give it to your friends then if you already have it? Because it does specifically say that whenever you start your turn without it. So it's like if you have heroic inspiration, can you like at the start of your turn be like, I'm feeling heroically inspired, but I already have mine. But can I then give it to my friends? Because that's technically part of the rule where if you gain heroic inspiration but already have it, it's lost unless you give it to a player character who lacks it. But I don't know if this ability would be triggered if you technically already still have it. Because it does say whenever you start your turn without it. So you might not even technically get the chance to activate it then. And to be fair, I guess it is also only during combat can you do this. But then again, if you get it during combat and you don't use it, you just have it until you use it again.
I I love it.
Which is hilarious because that also can apply to your normal fighter ability of like getting advantage on any attacks, or getting advantage on any attacks if you miss with a previous attack. So you could heroic inspiration, get advantage. If you somehow miss with that advantage, you get advantage on your next attack to then attack and hit. And then technically on your next turn, you would then get heroic advantage again, which you could then technically use for saving throws, which at level 20 you'd get like a plus 31 to anyway if you somehow failed. Like Heroic Warrior kind of seems a little busted a little bit.
I love it.
Maybe not busted because again all it is just gives you advantage, but still that's fucking just as much as you want is crazy in combat. Uh anyway, continue on, buddy.
Um, yeah, you then get superior critical, just like before. You crit on unarmed strikes and weapon attacks that from an 18 to 20 on the dice.
Yep, that's nice.
And then you then at 18 get survivor.
Which I think is a bit different than
It's the same if
So for
part of
2014,
it's the same in the sense that the heroic rally
yeah.
is the same. So
So
at the start of each of your turns, you regain hit points equal to 5 plus your con modifier if you are bloodied and have at least 1 hit point. Before, it was basically the same thing. You had to have half health
yeah, so
and
basically
below.
for 2014, it was you attain the pinnacle of resilience in battle. At the start of each of your turns, you regain hit points equal to 5 plus your con modifier if you have no more than half your hit points left. You don't gain this benefit if you have 0 hit points. So basically, I
It's the
mean,
same here,
yeah.
just worded slightly differently. But you also get defy death. You have advantage on death saving throws. Moreover, when you roll an 18 to 20 on a death saving throw, you gain the benefit of rolling a 20 on it, which means you get up
Yeah.
and then next turn you'd heal.
Yeah. If
um,
you survive, of course. Like, but if
yeah,
you basically, yeah, if you roll an 18, basically you can crit on your death saves with an 18 or through 20.
which is kind of funny. Um,
It's not horrible. It's still very unlikely, but it's still a higher chance than was before. Uh,
Part of me wants to play a champion fighter dual wielding Vorpal swords, but
wow, that sounds crazy. Yeah, I could see the appeal of that. I could see the appeal.
I mean, I hate to say it, I think they finally buffed champion,
I do believe they did.
and some
By
of the
all
things.
accounts, technically speaking, they have, yeah, buffed the champion fighter. It's not incredible. It's still not amazing or crazy in any way, but like that heroic warrior ability alone is still kind of like that's amazing. Um yeah, it's not insane or crazy by any standard of measurement, but it's definitely far better than it was before, which was kind of almost completely useless in a lot of ways. It was almost like the original champion Acolytes was essentially almost like a non-subclass. It was literally almost like it wasn't even a real subclass at all. It did almost nothing uh that was really worthy or indicative of a subclass. It was basically just you were just a double fighter. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like it was basically just like you were just more of a normal fighter. You were just yeah. I'm a fightier fighter. That's all. Like that was about it. Uh, and for this champion, to be fair, it's kind of the same thing, a little bit, like a little bit. You're still kind of just a fightier fighter, but you're kind of a more you're a heroic fightier fighter, um, who's maybe a little bit more difficult to take down. Who knows? But honestly, it's still fun. It's interesting. Certainly not much of a bonus or a boost, but hey, what are you gonna do? Anything else you got to say about this one, bud?
No, I like it. I might actually have to play new
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 champion?
champion.
What would you rate the current fighter compared to the old 2014?
I think it's like a B. They've
Yeah.
improved some stuff, so like it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say it's a solid B, maybe B plus potentially. Again, the beauty of fighters is obviously when they're fighting, or specifically as well as like it really comes down to like your role play of them as well is really what kind of makes a fighter too. Like one of the things I loved about, or appreciated, and I haven't actually finished the most recent Critical Role season, season three. I stopped watching it because I kind of just lost interest. Like, but I will say, even with that, ironically, one of the things I love the most about this is Liam's depiction of Orym. I like the fact that Liam would be very descriptive with all of the shit he was doing with Orym, the cool attacks. And you know me, I'm also very descriptive with that. So I just like that kind of stuff personally. I like to be descriptive and expressive like that, as they say. And so I appreciate that when other people do it too, but especially for fighters, because that really is what it comes down to. Is for a lot of martial classes, because they're not nearly as grandiose and splendiferous, spectacular as spellcasters, you kind of have to supplement a little bit of the interest and grandeur with description, right? Being descriptive and imaginative with how you're attacking, bringing out your weapons and your movements and all that other stuff. Being descriptive can really help add some spice to your fighter who, for all intents and purposes, is kind of just I run up and hit it. I hit it. I hit it again. I hit it again. I try to hit it again. I hit it. I hit it again. Like so. With this though, I do appreciate they add a little bit to it. Um, yeah, over again, I'm not mad at this. Like I said, like Sammy said, there's not a lot of changes, and Fighter was already pretty badass and cool, in my opinion, anyways, in the original. So, you know, not too shabby overall. Uh, anything else you got to say, buddy?
Yeah, I think these are two classes that what's it called?
Pretty straightforward.
Were pretty
Pretty
straightforward. But now
yeah, they got a bit of versatility to them. They got a bit of flexibility.
I like that. I think that's a good what we need from classes like this is that kind of um however you want to call it, the like changing it up a little bit so you're not just hitting the same button over and over again.
Yeah, it's a bit of refreshing. You have options. You have options to be a little bit more refreshing. It's not just a one trick pony, one pump chump or whatever kind of thing, where you're just doing a little one thing. Uh which interestingly enough, speaking of that, we still got to talk about the cleric and the warlock as well in a video, which I believe we'll be doing pretty soon as well. Um but we'll save that for the next video. That being said, everybody, if you guys have stuck with us this long, we appreciate it so very much as always. That is about all we've got to say for both the fighter as well as the barbarian today. If you like what we're doing here, again, like, comment down below. Let us know what you guys think of the new fighter and barbarian. If you're at the end, if you can't really think of what else to kind of say, just put in the description. Boss, barbarian, and fierce fighter. Not in description, sorry, in the comments down below. But as always, subscribe, share the channel, and we will be sure to catch y'all next time when we are diving back down into the archive. So long for now, y'all. We'll see you soon.